Hi and welcome back to Bounce Forward with me, Tiff Hall. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders, past and present. Laura came at me with a great question. Hi Tiff, this is a bit of a more personal question for you, but I listened to your episode with Ed on the podcast last year and I would love to hear about your love story. How did you actually meet Ed? What was your wedding like? And do you have any tips on how to stay married for so long? Oh, Ed. Yes. Okay. Let's talk about how I met Ed. I was working as a gladiator, which was a weird job anyway. And I was on telly in a little bra and lycra panties and boxing boots and some mechanical wings. And my hair was out with feathers in it. And it was a good look. Like it was like a, it looked good. I reckon I looked good back then. And Ed turned to his housemate at the time, who is now a good friend of ours, and said, I'm going to marry that girl on the TV. And his housemate said, you're going to marry the Gladiator Angel. And Ed said, yep, I'm going to marry that girl. As it happened, Ed was working for Nova at the time as a broadcaster, and he was flown up to Sydney where we were filming Gladiators to interview the gladiators. And I was about to go out and compete. And you got to understand, I'm in competition mode here. I'm about to meet someone out on the obstacle course that wants to kill me basically for money and they're going to hurt me and I've got to be focused, right? My head's got to be in the game because you can get hurt if you're distracted. And here I am about to go out and compete, so focused, and this guy is trying to chat me up, sort of interview me, but sort of like, how's your day been? Like, what? I don't want to talk to you. And so I was a bit rude and like barred him. Now is not the time for this. No, go away kind of thing. And I didn't even remember meeting him, to be honest. But he didn't give up. When I finished filming Gladiators, I came back to Melbourne to do press. And Ed requested through publicity that I go into the breakfast radio show he was doing at the time and do an interview in the radio station. And so I went along and we had a great interview and a lot of chemistry, in the interview. And then I left and then he asked me back again on breakfast radio. It's sort of unusual to have the same guest back like 2 or 3 times in a row. It's a bit unusual. But he kept asking me back and I kept happily going back. And on the third time that I went in for an interview, I said to him, look, do you want my number? Because it would be a lot easier just to call me and chat rather than having me come in to do an interview on the radio station. And he was like shocked and he quickly took my number and we went out for dinner. We went to Japanese teriyaki. Ed didn't have a car. He rode his bicycle and I had my Barina. We're early 20s at this stage. And he took me out for dinner and then we had a little kiss and I thought, I really like this guy. I really like him. And then we were inseparable for many years. That was like 2007. And about 7 years later, in 2014, we got married. We got married on the wedding anniversary of my parents, who are still married and celebrating something like 50 years marriage this year. And we had a beautiful wedding, very traditional. Ed wanted me to walk down the aisle to the traditional bridal music. Dun, 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 dun. And I wore a very traditional white dress. It was just a boat neckline, a bit puffy like a princess dress, and it had a tiny little belt. I've never shared a picture of my wedding dress, so that's like the first description anyone's ever got. And I had these beautiful white shoes with a blue bow on them, something blue. And I had sewn into my dress, into the pocket, my grandmother's bracelet. She had passed away a week before my wedding, which was so sad. And that was something borrowed. We had so many friends and family come and write us letters on how beautiful the wedding was afterwards. It was intimate. It wasn't a big wedding. This is going to sound weird, but if I can find a photo, I will share it. I decorated the tables with veggies and kale roses and beautiful bunches of carrots, and because, it was still healthy and fitnessy and whatever, but it was these beautiful, rich, big tables of veggies that instead of flowers, which was cost effective, but it also looked really gorgeous. And then we had a huge curtain pulled back, and there was ladders, big ladders, and on each run of the ladders were the desserts, and just ladders and ladders and ladders of desserts, which was beautiful. Oh, I loved our wedding, and Ed cried all the way through it. I didn't shed a tear, and to this day, he's like, "What's wrong with you?" But I was just so happy. I was even too happy for happy tears. I was just so beaming. We had been together for 8 years or something. It was time. It was the right time for us. I was 30 and I wanted to have children, and it was just such a gorgeous wedding. But Ed was just bawling his eyes out the whole time, which was lovely. He cried when I walked down the aisle. He cried when he said a few words at the reception, and just to have our friends fly in from all over. It was a Melbourne wedding. It was so beautiful. Do I have any tips how I stayed married this long? I think you have to have a real admiration and respect for each other. I really, really, really respect my husband. I think he's so talented and I really admire him. I am his biggest fan. And I think that being each other's biggest fan and always pumping each other up, being like, you can do this, is really important. And also having your own thing going on is really important. I've always had my first baby, my TXO, my business, which was a small little business, and it has grown to a medium-sized company now. And I've always had that love, that passion, that drive, my fitness, and I've had that. Ed's always loved his radio and his television and his, comedy. He's always loved that. And it's very separate, but we've had our own drive and our own hobbies and our own things going on. We don't live in each other's pockets. I think that's really important and healthy. My biggest tip, I think, I married a comedian, I think, is you got to have a sense of humor. You got to have a laugh. Even on the biggest days where the baby's done a punami, work is intense, the kids are out of control, literally out of control. The house is a disaster. Sometimes we just crack up laughing, oh my God. But you just put your game face on and you go do it. Ed and I will have a laugh. He'll crack a joke and I will just lose it, And I think that's been a real secret to the longevity of our marriage. It'll be 10 years on October the 25th this year. I don't know how we'll celebrate. Probably a low-key date night or something, get a babysitter and go out or something like that. And it's always nice to sort of acknowledge that it's also my parents' wedding anniversary also, and they've been married forever. They met when they were 11 years old at school, and they have been together since they were 11 years old. And that blows my mind. I'm like, what? It's crazy. But my brother is 26 and it's just a different world now because Ed and I met before social media. And so we had that experience of Ed calling me, cold calling me and being nervous on the phone, which was so exciting. And, we had that experience of dating and catching up face to face. And my brother now dating apps, and he's got a girlfriend. He's got the most beautiful girlfriend now, but he went off social media. The only 20-year-old I know who didn't have Instagram, didn't have social media at all, did not engage in dating apps. He just said it's putrid out there. And then he met a beautiful girl through work. It's just a different world now. And I'm really grateful that I met Ed without the social media pressures and all of that. And we really got to know each other. I just think that's so special, and I'll always really cherish that time. He's just supported me through so much. And in having your own thing, I think hobbies are really important. I've always had my taekwondo, and when Ed met me, I was actually in a taekwondo demonstration team, which was my hobby. And it sounds a little nerdy, but we would get booked for anything from school fetes to festivals to even weddings. And we would go and perform taekwondo to music, do board breaking and cool moves to music and stuff like that in the white dobok, in the taekwondo pajamas. And I just love that. And I would always invite Ed to see the demonstrations. And I think he was always laughing at me like, oh my God, you're in your 20s and you're part of a troop, taekwondo troop. And I'm like, yes, we're called the Demo Team Extreme. We weren't that extreme, but we liked to think we were. And we actually made it on to Australia's Got Talent into the finals, which I'm so proud of. And I mean, just having little hobbies like that. And I mean, it's so nerdy. And I look back to it like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. But having your own hobbies is really important. I think Ed always said to me that he was attracted to that I had my own stuff going on. And, I wasn't hanging off him all the time and always wanting, to hang out. I was like, no, I got a demo to go to. And, it was just funny. So I think that's probably my biggest tip. Have your own passions, have your own hobbies, and involve them as much as you can, support them. And I guess things really changed for Ed and I when we became parents, because we always had a rhythm with each other. But when you become a parent, the pressure's on, right? And it's intense. And you are under pressure, and you see the worst of each other and the best of each other. Seeing Ed as a doting dad is the most beautiful thing. And I love him so much more now seeing that. But you also see each other ragged and tired and sleep deprived. And, when I had a newborn, I hadn't showered for 3 days. And it's just like you just see the worst and the best of each other. And it brings you closer. But, having that strong foundation really helped us, I think, through that parenting, the intense parenting phase of small children, young children, which we have. But a beautiful wedding. And you can actually hold me to this. For our wedding anniversary, Ed and I would like to put on our wedding dress, and I want to put on my wedding dress, and he will put on his wedding suit. One, I don't even know if it'll still fit me because I've had babies and my ribs have moved out and my hips and everything's changed, but we're going to try and put them on, and we want to take a photo and share it and like just have like Uber Eats in our wedding gear at home or something like that. And yeah, I can't wait for that. So we will share that photo. We've been talking about it in October. My wedding dress was stored, and it was the first dress that I tried on that I just loved, because I hate fuss and I hate not wearing activewear, and I hate getting dressed really. I hate wearing anything but activewear. And the thought of going into all these bridal boutiques with all these dresses, it was overwhelming. And we went to like 3 shops and I was just overwhelmed. I didn't have enough money at the time to have a dress made for me or created. I didn't actually want to spend the money on that. I was saving for a house, and Ed and I were saving for a house, and we just were really low key. So this dress now, I think, wow, I have pairs of shoes that cost more than my wedding dress. Like, it's just amazing to think like that now. And it was the first dress I tried on, and I was just plain simple, and I loved it. But it's been stored now for 10 years in a box. And I just think, what's the point of that? I totally want to get it out, totally want to try it on, get dressed up for the day, live in it for a bit, and then I don't know, maybe I'll sell it or something. It's just taking up room, and I had such a great time in that wedding dress. But what do people do with wedding dresses? Are you meant to just keep them forever? I doubt Vader will want to wear my wedding dress. I didn't want to wear my mum's wedding dress. I just think, like, I'm ready to move on. I think 10 years, I'm ready to sell it or ready to donate it and move on, and I'm at peace with it now. Definitely time to move on. So thank you for that question, Laura. A bit of a personal one, but fun to answer. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to Bounce Forward. I love having your company, so please DM me on Instagram at tiffhall_xo and let me know what questions you'd love me to cover. Don't forget to rate and review me on your podcast app. Speak soon. Happy days.